Hi, this is the Magnificent Midlife Podcast, and I'm Rachel Lancaster. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started, and the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife, about issues that matter, and sharing fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now is our time. Today I am dipping into the podcast archives because there are so many gems in there and I want to share some of them with you. Today it is Makeda Smith, who's a celebrity publicist and a pole and exotic dancer. She began her pole and aerial training at the age of 50 and now she's over 60 and she is still doing it. This woman is so inspiring. I just love what she does. She talks in the interview about how she really triggered some women in her own community who really didn't like what she was doing, but that only made her stronger and made her more determined to enable women to embrace their sexuality and their sensuality at any age and into her 60s and beyond. So enjoy my conversation with Makeda Smith. Makeda, it is wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. I'll be 60 next week, so this is like our pre-birthday celebration.
It's fantastic. So there's been a decade of pole dancing, and you're going to tell us all about that, because it's amazing. What you do is incredible. It's just amazing. So anyway, so you didn't start until 50.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Oh my gosh. It was not planned, let me say that. It was not a plan to start pole dancing. In 2008, the market crashed. I think it crashed around the world maybe, but I know it crashed here. And I literally lost everything. I had like 13 properties. I had a man. I had cars. I had a dog. Everything I lost. The man walked out and never came back. The houses got repossessed. My home got foreclosed on. The IRS audited me. It was like, literally, I was like, okay, I've spent time on this planet. I came, I conquered. I can leave now. That's how I felt. But I have 2 daughters, and I knew I had to stay here for them, which was like, because I could have just swallowed some pills. I was good. So in the course of that, I met this, I had moved to Hollywood Boulevard, lived in this little apartment, had lived in the apartment for like 15 years. It was like, I was so depressed. But I was walking down Hollywood. I was living in Hollywood, in the ghetto part of Hollywood, because people think Hollywood is so fabulous. I was in the good part of Hollywood. I was walking down the street. There was this woman on the boulevard doing a split, and there was a photographer taking a picture of her. She had fabulous blonde hair. She was so fabulous. I was like, ooh, look at her. And it was like in a movie, because I was walking, minding my own business, and I looked up and she was like right next to me. It was like a movie. You know how like your angel appears to you in like a movie? I was like, I just saw you back there. I was like in my mind, how did she get up from doing a split that fast and like end up right next to me? So she and I started chatting. She had a fabulous accent like yours. She was here visiting. I think she lived in Essex. Is Essex?
Yeah, very close to where I am.
Yes, she lived in Essex. She was there visiting her family, her son, and we were chatting, and I asked her, you're so fabulous. Like, I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old are you? Because I couldn't place her age. I was like looking at her like, how old is she? She told me she was 75. I almost pushed her in the street. I was like, you are not 75. She said, you are not 75. What's your secret? She said, darling, yoga. I started yoga at the age of 40. Yoga is my fountain of youth. I said, oh my God, I'm 50. I'm like 10 years behind. I got to go take some yoga. She and I became fabulous friends. We still keep in touch. I went and took a yoga class, and it was so boring. And I was like, I cannot do this for I can't do this. I can't do yoga, but I got to do something. I got to start back exercising. So there were these coupons, Groupons. They have these coupons out here where you get to try stuff for like inexpensively. So I don't even know what possessed me to buy a pole dance. Like really, I don't even know. Like it was like $15, and I figured, well, I don't have a lot of money, but it's $15. 6 months I sat on those Groupons and didn't use them, and finally they were about to expire, and I was like, oh, let me go take this class, because it was so out of my comfort zone to even think about it. But I went to the class, and the first class I was hooked. Like, you know how you hear about people who like hit the pipe or take a drink of alcohol and they're hooked. I was hooked. That's all I can tell you. I was hooked. It was the most healing space. And what I realize now is that dance temples are really healing temples for women, which I didn't realize at the time. But when I was inside that dance studio, the rest of the world literally disappeared. I was not depressed. I wasn't thinking about the man who left me, the houses I no longer had, the dogs that I had to give away, the cars that, like, I didn't think about anything. All I could concentrate on was the teacher and her instruction and trying to repeat what she was doing and having fun while doing it. So I was like, oh, I got to do this like every day. And that's how I got started pole dancing. So I, like, for a whole year, I found Groupons and deals online, and I did different studios, and I probably overdid it because every morning I woke up and I felt like my body had been hit by a car, like literally. Like I was like, this must be how athletes train. And I used to tell myself, I must be crazy because literally, like the only time I feel like I can move is when I get in the studio and the pain goes away. But other than that, I was in constant pain for a year. So I was just crazy. But you know, I was depressed, so I had to do something.
But hopefully the pain didn't last though.
No, after like a year of intense training, your body gets used to being abused, and you know, you start feeling better.
So in a way it saved you from a complete midlife meltdown, didn't it?
No, literally saved me. It saved me. It gave me my femininity back. You know, having a man walk out on you as you're losing everything is not good for the self-esteem. I was just like, I'm no longer a woman. I am not worthy. No man will ever be attracted to me again. I was just depressed. So pole dancing, like once I started learning how to do the movement, once I started conquering the tricks and learning the tricks, I started feeling like, oh, we got this. I kind of feel like a superwoman. I feel like Wonder Woman. So it gave me my oomph back.
Yeah. Makeda's website is flyingover50.com, but go and check out the gallery because the photos on there of you are absolutely stunning. And the positions you're in and the beauty of your body and the positions, it's really just quite mind-blowing, really.
Thank you. You know what? I really say that this is what I think about pole dancing. Pole dancing helped me rediscover who I was in a past life. And I sincerely believe I was a temple priestess in a past life. And I sincerely believe she takes over my body when I dance, because I go back and look at pictures or movements and I'd be like, that wasn't me. I was like, ooh, that was not me. Like, that was her. So I gave her a name. Her name is Sheba. So Sheba just comes in and takes over. So that's all. Sheba's a wild woman. I'm a wild woman too, but Sheba's a real wild woman.
But that's rather lovely, isn't it? That you can have your alter ego come in and just and then embrace that. Because as women, we probably have many different alter egos, don't we? But it's rare that we discover them or that, you know, we allow them to flourish. So you've done that.
Yes. And that's why I'm on this mission to have all women like embrace their alter egos, embrace growing. Like I never thought, like I'm almost 60 and I never thought, when I was younger in my 20s and 30s, I thought by the time I was 50, life would be over. And it almost was over because I lost everything. So maybe I kind of brought that on myself. But I really thought, oh, by the time you turn 50, like you're an old maid. I really bought into all of that. So I never looked forward to turning to aging. And now, and this is one thing Magda taught me. Magda was the woman who I met on Hollywood Boulevard doing a split. She said, darling, they lied to us. Aging is fabulous. It's fabulous. We never get old. That's what she always tells me. And she is so true. She was 75. She's like 80 something now. She sent me a picture of herself a couple of years ago because she finally learned how to work the internet. She was in a tree and there were two young women taking a picture of her in the tree. And she said, darling, they wanted a picture, so I figured I would climb the tree and pose for them.
That's fantastic. It's brilliant. I love that bit about that they lied to us. They do. They lie to us. And I often talk about this on the podcast because, all of the people out there that can make money off our discontent, that can make money off us feeling bad, because then they can sell us all this stuff that we don't really need, but we're going to buy it because we feel so bad about ourselves. Whereas if we feel good about ourselves, they're not going to make as much money, are they?
It's so true. And they lied to us because as women, we are so deeply, deeply, deeply powerful. And we grow more powerful as we age. And they don't want us to know our true power. Because, baby, we are powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am totally on side with that. I mean, I just love getting older. And we become more of ourselves, don't we? I just feel I'm growing into who I was always supposed to be.
Can I tell you, I never thought I would be so excited about becoming 60. Like once I hit like 55, 56, I started checking out women who were 60 and they were so fabulous. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait to turn 60 because I know 60 unleashes a whole nother level of magic. And then there's 70. Like there's some women I follow on Facebook who are 70 and I'm like, 70 is mind blowing. So yeah, it gets better and better, and they lie to us, and they just make us think like they just lied, honey.
And then when we can understand that and embrace that, it just transforms our experience of getting older, doesn't it? Completely.
It does. It completely, and that's the mission you and I are on, to tell women. Like I meet women, like, and sometimes in my workshops and in my classes, I ask women, how old are you? And they never want to say their age, or they want to like, oh, I'd be like, tell your age. Like, it's so brilliant and so wonderful that you've made it this far. Oh my God, it's nothing to be ashamed of. Just nothing to be ashamed of. It's something like you should be boasting. Yeah, I'm 65. Yes, I'm 58. Like, what? When I used to be in classes, in my early pole journey, sometimes it would be me. I would be the oldest one in the class, or sometimes there'd be one other woman. But there was a class that's full of 20 and 30-year-olds. And I used to get really intimidated going to class. I used to feel really bad. Like in my brain, I'd be like, your old ass, why are you up in here? You can barely keep up with these women. Because really, I couldn't keep up in class. I used to make a point when I had a new teacher, I would tell the new teacher, I know I may not look this old, but I'm like over 50, and so I'm going to be in the corner of the room, and if I can't keep up, don't stop the class, just keep going, like don't pay me any mind. I used to tell teachers who didn't know me that because I could never keep up with the women. But the thing was, I had to tell my brain, stop feeling bad because you're in your 50s and you're here. When these women are in their 50s, will they be here? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's easy to take these classes and flaunt around while you're in your 20s and your 30s. But it's a whole nother level to come into a pole dance class in your 50s. So I have to tell my brain, stop beating yourself up. Like, you're already winning. It doesn't matter if it takes you 6 weeks to learn the move that everybody else has already learned. You're winning because you're here.
I think that's so important because I think we do ourselves damage by retreating, don't we? We think we can't do it, or we can't compete, or we're going to look silly, as you said, we're going to stick out. So we retreat instead of doing it and doing exactly that, and actually saying to the teacher, this is how old I am. I don't look it, but, or you may not think I look it, but, this is how old I am. So it's interesting because Before lockdown, I was a big Ashtanga yoga fan, and I would go to Ashtanga yoga classes, and they're pretty dynamic. You know, they're not boring yoga. They're quite
no, they're
dynamic.
not. Wait, yeah, I love yoga now. I should say I love yoga now. And part of pole dancing, the first 20 minutes we spend doing yoga, and now I'm a total yogi. I can do yoga for an hour now, so I love yoga now. But you do that Ashtanga, oh girl.
I did. I've sort of dropped off a bit during lockdown. I've not been keeping it up. But I remember going to a new studio, and I was clearly the oldest person there. And I noticed that, and I was thinking, oh gosh, you know, is this what's to be? But that doesn't mean I can't be there. It just means, you know, as you say, I've got to perhaps take it at my pace. And it was interesting because at one stage, the tutor, you know, I was making a noise with my leg as it went back, and I was the only person. And he was saying, you know, try and lift your leg up so that you don't make the noise. And I was thinking, oh, sod off, it's me and I can't do it. You know, I'm just doing it the way I can do it. But what I perhaps next time, if I ever got that same instructor again, I think I'd go to him and say, look, could you just not make that comment? Because I know it's me.
Exactly.
And I can't do anything about it.
Can I tell you, I used to be the most vocal person in my classes. I would moan. I would complain. I cuss. The teachers who knew me, they would just laugh because they'd be like, oh, they didn't pay. I was just like, you expect me to do what? No, no, my body. Like, I would argue with the teachers. I was like, you understand how old I am? That is not going to happen. And I have one teacher in particular, and she would just push me and go, I don't care how old you are. You came to my class, you're going to do it. And she would make me do the most magnificent things. I would just love her. But I would cuss like a sailor in her class. I used to cuss at her.
And I know from looking at your Instagram that you have bought something that I was thinking of buying for myself, which is that stand, the headstand stand.
Oh, gosh.
And you've got yourself up on it, and I want one of those.
It took me. I have another friend, and she has one, and then all the pole girls are all buying them now. And it took me a year. I put it on my wish list, and I just bought it. It's my nemesis, though. It's so scary. You could probably handle it better because you're a real yogi. It's
well,
so
I don't
scary.
know about that, but. Have you done headstands without it?
With my pole right there, it's the only way I can do a headstand. I can do a headstand up on my pole because the pole is...
Then who's the real yogi?
No. There has to be a pole there. The yogis I know and the pole dancers I know, they can do a headstand in the middle of the floor with nothing around them.
I need a wall. I don't often touch the wall. Well, I didn't used to, but I need it for security.
Can I tell you, just the other day when I pulled my little feet up trainer out, I actually put it next to a wall because I was like, this is too scary doing it in the middle
I would do that.
Yeah, I put it next to a wall, but then I felt like, I got to retrain my brain. I got to put it back in the middle of the floor, but it's really scary.
So we should actually explain to listeners and viewers that this is it's a little like a little table almost, isn't it? But it has a space for your head, and you put your head in the hole, and then it's a way of getting you into a headstand without your head being on the floor. So the pressure is off your neck, isn't it? Which seems
the pressure's off your neck, and it's on your shoulders, and you're in the headstand on your shoulders on this little stool. But you're still in the headstand, so it's very scary because your brain is like, oh, we're going to topple this way, we're going to topple that way, we're going to topple this way. It's very scary.
So good for you. But then again, I'm guessing flying around on a pole is quite scary, isn't it?
It is, and you know what? It really is, but it's not anymore. But it's so interesting because when I bought the little feet up trainer yoga thing, I was like, it reminded me of how I used to feel when I first started taking yoga, or like when I transitioned and started the hammock or the lyric, like that fear and that uncertainty. So in doing this, I was like, oh, this is how it used to feel back in the day when I tried something new. So this means I just got to stick to it. So I'm a crazy Capricorn. So even though I hate doing it, I'm going to do it and conquer it.
Well, it's about challenging yourself, isn't it? And
Yes.
keeping that challenge going. And I guess,
Yes.
You have a pretty high challenge threshold, I would imagine.
I told myself that the other day. I said, you are really crazy. Because I told myself the other day, I said, why can't you just be content pole dancing and hanging upside down on hammocks? Why do we have to introduce a new toy to the game? And now that you've tried it and it scares you, now it's like that just makes me more want to conquer it. I just said, oh my God, you're really crazy. I told myself that the other day. Said,
and then what's next? What will be the next challenge?
Exactly. And then what's going to be next?
Trapeze, I think. How about that?
I've tried trapeze. Wait, you mean the trapeze that you hang from?
Yeah.
Yes, I've tried
You've done that one. Oh,
yeah, I've done that. I've done trapeze. I've done hoop. I've done variations of different hoops. I've done hammock. I've done silks. I've done pole. I've done all that.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. It's not crazy. I think it's pretty darn cool. Now, I know that you've been injured in the course of doing this, and you were injured quite badly, weren't you? And I can imagine that a lot of women, what?
You've been following me, huh?
I know what you've been up to. I do my research.
The injury, where I fell off my pull-up bars. Yes. And I've done pull-up bars. I have them back up now. The friend who put them back up, I made him nail them in. Like he took some drill and nailed them in. But I was on my pull-up bars and they fell and I fell on my knee. And I was in the bed and I couldn't walk on my knee for a whole entire month. But my knee was swollen, but thank goodness I wasn't in a whole lot of pain. I don't know. I was taking CBD every day, so maybe that helped. And I was rubbing CBD cream on my leg. So I wasn't in a whole lot of pain, but it was discomfort because I couldn't train. I couldn't walk. I was literally like scooting to the bathroom or crawling to the bathroom. And then finally, like my daughter had this chair and she like the office chair, like 2 weeks or 3 weeks into my injury, my daughter rolled her office chair and said, Mom, I'm so sick of you hopping around and crawling around. Take my chair. I was like, how come we didn't do this chair from the get-go? She was like, I don't know. I just thought about it today. I was like, this chair is everything. So I was rolling around the house in the chair. But yeah, that was. But I figured in a 10-year span, that was the worst injury. So, I can't really complain. I made it a whole 10 years,
And it wasn't actually on the pole, was it?
And it wasn't on the pole, no. And it wasn't my fault. It was the freaking bar fell. And it could have been worse.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I think that fear of injury often puts women off as they get a bit older, and we know that recovery time is longer, so it can stop us from doing things, but it clearly hasn't stopped you, and it hasn't stopped you even since your injury going back and carrying on doing stuff on the pole. So what advice do you have for women to sort of get over that fear of injury? What can they do?
The best thing, fear is like imagined. It's what we tell ourselves. And I always say this, and it's really hard, but it's our self-talk. Like our self-talk influences our reality. So if you reinforce fear, then fear is going to be reinforced. It's like when I was going to class in my early pole journey, and I was in the class with all the young women. Really, every day when I would schedule my classes, and then it come to the day and I would curse myself out. Why did you schedule this class? Because we really don't want to go. I really didn't want to go, but then I would get there and I would feel better. But it was the fear because I'd go to class and I'd be like, my brain would be like, you're going to be the youngest one there. You're not going to be able to keep up. You tell yourself all these things. So you really have to just tell yourself something different. And it sounds so simple, but it's not, because even now I have to tell myself all kinds of different things, because it's like one side of my brain is the negative side and the other side of the brain is the positive side, and they battle with each other. So you just really have to practice positive reinforcement. I tell some of my friends and my students, when your brain tells you something negative, make a point to counter it with something positive. And the more you counter it with something positive, you'll squash that negative voice. Right now, the negative voice is the louder voice. If you keep battling that negative voice, the positive voice becomes the louder voice. So even though I still have those battles, the positive voice is the louder voice, because the battle seems like it never freaking ends.
And I know that also, I mean, I'm assuming that you do this in your teaching, but you certainly do it in your social feed, that you make the pole dancing accessible, because you're not always flying around the pole. Sometimes you're using the pole, but it's also about exotic movement, isn't it? It's about dance. So it's not just getting up on the pole, but using the pole and moving around it. And so I think that makes it very accessible, actually.
That's an interesting thing, too, because in the first maybe 5-6 years of my pole journey, it was all about the pole tricks. Like, I would push myself to learn these pole tricks. Like, that was the crazy part. But as I got more seasoned in my journey, it turned into more the movement and the exoticness and the flow. And then as I started teaching women, what I found out was that women are really intimidated by the pole, and they're intimidated by the shoes.
I was going to ask you about the shoes. This woman has the most incredible shoes. I mean, they just make me have heebie-jeebies just looking at them. I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine even.
I know. I wear 8 and 9 inch heels. So I would have women tell me, oh, I know. And so when I actually teach my Flying Over 50 class, it doesn't involve a pole. It doesn't involve any shoes. All it involves is you and your body, you on the floor, you against walls. And this is what I discovered, though. In my pole journey, I started taking exotic movement classes. And when I would take the exotic dance classes, they made me feel like super sexy. They were really hard. Can I tell you, exotic dance is as hard as pole movement, because it works your core. It's serious training. But I used to wonder, but after you finish the class, you feel amazing. And I used to say, if more older women knew about these exotic movement classes, this would be a big deal. So now I teach exotic movement. And what I found out is once I introduce the women to exotic movement and they get back into their bodies and they get back feeling sensual, feminine, divine creatures, a lot of them then want to go take pole classes, and then they want to explore the shoes and, so I just did mine backward. I did the pole and then discovered exotic dance. So now I have the women do the exotic dance first, the exotic dance and the exotic movement, because that it's like a gateway. Once you start feeling like, oh, really sexy, then you're like, let me go walk around the pole.
And do you find that women have a big sort of transformational journey like you did?
Yes, I really do. My oldest student, I think she started with me when she was 69 or 70. So she's like 73, 74 now. And she always tells me that like the exotic movement classes just gave her whole mojo back. They give you your life back. This is what I tell women. I tell women when they come to my classes, like, if you don't take anything from this class, when you go home every day or 2 or 3 times a week, just shake your hips while you're washing dishes, brushing your teeth. Shake your hips. Your hips, your womb, that space is your power source. When we were little, we used to shake our hips. We used to have this little thing. Shake it to the east, shake it to the west, shake it to the one you love the best. Remember, I tell the women, remember when you were little, that's all you did was shake your hips and be sassy. How come when we get older, we don't shake our hips and be sassy anymore? It's because they told us we can't shake our hips. But we can shake our hips and we can be sassy. And if you don't do anything else, shake your hips. My auntie took my class. She's 85 now. She's in Chicago. When I went to Chicago, I taught a class and made all my cousins and relatives come. She's 85. Every time she talks to me, she always reminds me, I'm still shaking my hips. Every time I do my dishes, I shake my hips, and she's 85.
And that's so bloody good for us too, isn't it? Because the hips is where we get locked in and we get all sorts of issues with our hips. So that is just brilliant. I'd say I'm wiggling my hips now.
Yes.
So So I'm standing up.
There you go.
Getting a bit of wiggle on.
There you go. I did a Zoom seminar with about 10 women about a month ago. It was a goddess wake up workshop, and they weren't expecting it. But at the end of the Zoom interview, we put on music, and I made everybody on Zoom stand up. And I said, we're going to shake our hips for an entire song. I didn't tell you this because if I had told you at the beginning, you guys would have just stressed out and you wouldn't have heard anything else I said. All you would have been thinking about is how I'm going to shake my hips for an entire song. So they all groaned and complained. I was like, oh, whatever. By the time the little 3-minute song was over, everybody's interview was way up here. They were like, oh my God. There were some women in the class who said they hadn't shook their hips in like years. They were like, oh my God, that was like amazing. And it's free.
Yeah. I was going to ask you actually how you've adapted in this awful COVID world. Are you still able to do some classes?
I take you know what? I may never go back to a studio. I love Zoom.
Really?
I love Zoom classes.
Oh, great.
I have some favorite teachers who I haven't had access to because they moved and now they're online. So it's like so wonderful. I don't have to, my wardrobe is right there. My shoes are right there. I don't have to pack the car. I don't have to worry about parking. I actually love it. It's wonderful. And I keep saying I'm going to start back my Flying Over 50 classes because I was teaching them in the studio. I'm going to start teaching online next year because so many women are asking me.
And you can do it globally.
Yeah.
You know, you can have us lot over here.
Yes.
Joining in as well.
Yes, and that's what a lot of the teachers are discovering. Their audiences, like their students are like, I'm in class now in Zoom classes, and it's women around the world. We're all on the Zoom taking pole classes. It's so wonderful, so wonderful.
I think it is. I think it does open up so much as well.
It really does.
Maybe we couldn't do before, you know. I mean, I would have no idea where to find an exotic dance class near me.
And it's interesting because when COVID first hit, I said, well, there goes my exotic dance class because I said older women aren't going to go on Zoom. They're not going to, you know, but here it is almost a year later. So I was like, well, all those older biddies who I was like weren't going to go on Zoom, they're forced to go on Zoom now because it's 9 months later. So if you haven't figured Zoom out now, it's so now I know I can do my classes. In the beginning, I was like, older women aren't going to do exotic dance classes on Zoom. They need to come into a studio. They need to be away from their homes. They need a special environment. But now I'm like, no, I think we can do it now.
I think it's just needs must, isn't it? You know, if you want to do this stuff now, we've got to embrace the technology that enables us to keep doing it.
Exactly. It's like
otherwise, what do? We just give everything up?
Exactly.
Can we?
It's like we live in a new world now, so we've got to get with the flow. So yeah. So I know you want to, you know, reawaken this sleeping goddess that resides in women, regardless of their age. And you have, your mission is, you know, you believe that sexy never gets old. So how do you encourage women to embrace that? The first thing is what I said, shake your hips. When you shake your hips, you'll start waking up all kinds of things in your body. Like if you turn on your favorite song and shake your hips through an entire song, which is so funny. When I was teaching in the studio, when it got to that part of the class, that's when all the women complained the longest. They were like, I can't shake my hips for a whole 3-minute song. Like everybody just I just look at all of them and be like, would y'all just hush? And let's just dance. It's like magic. When you shake your hips and all you're thinking about is shaking your hips and listening to the music, it really is magical. It wakes up your sleeping goddess. It's just that simple. And if you do that enough, it's going to make you want to do other things and explore other things. So it really starts, to me, it just starts. Like, I don't try to overwhelm my older sisters because we got enough on our plate. So I just say, just shake your hips. Turn on some music and shake your hips. Just do that and then call me.
Okay. And what about the Everybody Visible movement? Because I know you were very involved in that. Tell us about that.
That's still happening, but Everybody Visible launched, there's so many different efforts that's going on. So Everybody Visible is that group has kind of dispelled, but the members of that group have taken up the torch and doing other things. So there's actually a petition going on now. And I think it's that there's 100,000 signatures because Instagram is still banning sex workers, pole dancers, even yogis, anybody who is into their body, like the restrictions on Instagram and really across social media, they're really crazy. This world is just gone crazy. That's all I could say.
It's so arbitrary sometimes. Yeah, it's like, it just doesn't make sense.
It's like, so we have to be online, but now we're online and we're being heavily censored. What? So I don't know. I just hold the space that in the end, everything's going to work out fine. It's all going to work out fine.
So I guess there's a whole community of you on things like Instagram.
Yes. I love Instagram. Instagram is where everybody is, but I don't know how long we'll be on Instagram because Instagram is deleting accounts and shadow banning people and censoring people. So I keep saying one of these young millennials are going to create a new social media space, and then we'll all leave Instagram and then we'll go there.
We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does your pole dancing, how does it fit with your long-standing and very successful PR business?
Well, that's interesting because when I started pole dancing, and it took me a year before I actually posted anything online. I think I posted on Facebook first because I didn't have an Instagram page. And when that was like almost 9 years ago, when I first started posting, I heard rumors that get back to me that people were saying that I had lost my mind and I was having a midlife crisis. And then I heard people rumble or mention to me, "Oh, clients aren't gonna hire you because that's inappropriate what you're doing." I've had people say that to me, and I've said to those people, "Well, clients who don't hire me because they think that's inappropriate, I don't want them as clients." So there's that. And I've always been like this renegade spirit. When I started, I've been in business as a publicist for 30 years. 33 years now. At my own agency. I've been a publicist for longer than 33 years. But when I started my own agency 30-something years ago, I started working from home. And I'm in Hollywood, and no one worked from home. And people told me, "You'll never survive. You better go rent an office in Hollywood on Hollywood Boulevard. No one's going to take you seriously." But I had one daughter at the time and then two. And I was like, I'm not going to work. I want to be home with my children. And I want to work around the clock and have my children there. And here it is 30-some years later. Now everybody works at home. So like I said, the whole COVID thing is like, I've been working at home forever. So like I don't get up and go anywhere unless I have to go to a meeting. So I don't know. So I've always not followed the trend. I've always kind of been ahead of my time, vision wise. So with the pole dancing, all the little rumbling around me, I was like, I feel too good to even care what you guys are saying. I was suicidal, okay? So y'all are lucky I'm still here. I was this close to suicide, literally. I would just wake up and be like, why did I wake up? Why am I still here? This is the worst feeling to have everything and then to have nothing. It's like, I don't know. So I was like, I don't care what those people are saying. I'm trying to live, and pole dancing is giving me life right now.
And would that have been different when you were younger? Would you have been more influenced by what people were saying?
I don't think so, because I've always been like a crazy renegade. Like I said, when I started my business, people were telling me you can't work from home. Like 30 something years ago, people did not work. Literally, that was so unheard of. Like it was at one point in my business, when I would take meetings with people, I would just pick out fabulous restaurants and go meet people there because I couldn't have them come to where I live because it just seemed so odd. Like people really didn't work from home. But no, I've never let that kind of thing stop me. I keep telling you I'm crazy. Good crazy, not bad crazy.
So, but do you find, this might be a tricky question, but do you find that there are any differences in how women adapt, or relate to what you're doing dependent on culture or ethnicity. I mean, what I suppose I'm saying is, are white women more uptight about this kind of
you know what?
activity? Have you noticed that?
That's an interesting question, but I think Black women are more uptight.
Really?
Yes. It's the most interesting thing because in the pole community per se, there are a lot of Black women doing amazing things in the pole community, owning their studios. Like once I got into the pole community, there are a lot of Black women doing amazing things. But the majority of the pole community, and when I would go to class, it's the majority of white women. And even when I counsel Black women, I tell them like, we are so like culturally, we are so uptight. I don't know. I think we're so uptight and we concern ourselves with what other people think more. So in terms of like the whole dance thing, I have found that, I mean, people might get mad at me for saying this, but I have found that white women are freer in their expression. And maybe they've been afforded to be freer in their expression. I mean, you could argue it either way, but no, I think when I get women in class, Black women are uptight. You would think we would just be shaking our hips, and it's like, no, honey, I got to be like, girl, we just gonna shake the hips. Just close your eyes, let it go.
Yeah. How interesting.
Yeah.
I think each culture, we all have our own hang-ups, don't we?
Yeah. It's like, it's a cultural thing. And so, and I mean, I'm not saying all Black women are uptight because, you know, you in this world, you say something and people take it out of context. But from my experience, I think it's older Black women. Older Black women are a little bit more uptight. And maybe it's because, you know, we just have this heavy burden on us and whatever. I mean, it could be a lot of reasons. I'm not saying it is a negative, but I tell, you know, I mean, really, like you said, in terms of my business being a publicist, it's because I don't care. But now, 10 years later, people have accepted the fact that, oh, she's a wild woman. She wears high heels. She dances half naked. Yeah, that's Makeda. She's crazy. Like they just accepted it. But in the beginning, I got a lot of backlash. I even on social media, I went viral once. People called me a granny stripper, and I got a lot of backlash in the Black press, and it was really, really bad. And it almost made me go under my bed and stop dancing, but I had to like self-talk myself through it, and I had to put myself out there even harder and say, I don't care what you guys are saying about me. I'm going to do me. Like, this is sexism. This is ageism. This is grannyism. You guys don't get to define who I am. And I've just stayed so rooted in that now I force people to accept it. But there was a period where like they tried to shut me down. I went like, when I tell you it went viral, it went crazy, crazy, crazy viral, and it was really negative. And I said, oh, this is how celebrities feel when we talk bad about them, because it affects you on a psychic level. And it affected me. I really had to like push myself through it.
I bet that was really hard. Yeah, especially when it was, I suppose it was your community that was giving you the hard time.
Yes,
well,
it was my community. It was the worst. They talked about my hair. I had an afro, like my natural hair. They talked about my hair. They talked about like, who does she think she is? Oh, she's a granny stripper. Oh, her welfare check must have ran out. It was ugly.
Ouch.
It was hideous and ugly. If I wasn't a bad bee like I am, it would have just shut me down.
That's misogyny. Just that's pure misogyny, isn't it?
It was the worst. When like one of my videos went viral, and I don't even know how it went viral, and the person put a negative comment on it, like, look at this granny, who does she think she is, or something, I don't even remember. And everybody reposted it, and the comments under it, there would be like 5,000 comments, and everybody was just taking hits at me. Wow. It was crazy. Yes, and it was Black folks. And I was just like, and I think I remember someone saying to me, If you were a white woman, they would be celebrating you for being older and dancing. But, you know, like I said, it gets into a cultural thing. So
it's really interesting, isn't it? That dynamic's really interesting.
That dynamic, yeah. They tried to shame me, but they don't shame me now. They can't shame me.
Good for you. Good for you. So what do you love most about what you do?
The PR part or the pole dancing part?
Either. Either.
The PR part. For PR, I really love making people famous and helping people bring attention to whatever their passion is. I get a big kick when I do PR and like my press release gets reposted in media. My clients are doing interviews and they're getting like international media attention. That just soars my heart. It never gets tired. It just makes me so happy. So that's a real passion. And then pole dancing, it's just a real passion. I love feeding my divine feminine self. I love her. Like, I'm so happy that we discovered each other. I was suicidal and I didn't know why I should live any longer. And now I really recognize myself as a priestess and a goddess, and I'm in love with myself. Wow. And I'm so happy to like share this energy with other women. And so many women tell me they're so inspired, and it just makes me so happy because they lied to us. And, you know, women like you and I, we have to get out there and dispel these lies because they are lies. Just lies.
So what do you want women to know? I guess it's that, you know, they lied to us.
I want women to know that we are all goddesses, that there's a sleeping goddess in you, that sexy never gets old. I always say sexy is a job, not a game, because I'm not saying sexy is easy. Working out is not easy. Exercising is not easy. Shaking your hips is not easy. Walking into a dance class and you the oldest biddy in the room is not easy, honey. No, none of it's easy, but sexy is a job, not a game, and we got to do it. And sexy never gets old. That's what I tell all my women. Sexy never gets old. Eartha Kitt was what, in her 80s when she passed away, I think. Eartha Kitt was the sexiest of them all. There's so many fabulous older women. Mae West was an older queen. There's so many goddesses that we can look to who tried to give us the message. They were just fabulous and sexy and older women and owned it. So, you know, give us a program, honey.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, follow, and share it. Also, giving a 5-star review really helps get the word out. You'll find the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you can get my book, Magnificent Midlife, Transform Your Middle Years, Menopause and Beyond. Make the very best of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.